everyone, and welcome to WSCI Studio. We are in ProWine Mumbai. The whole idea is to create a studio here in ProWine Mumbai so that we can, get the experience of the visitors as well as the people who came here with their product and showcase it in ProWine Mumbai. So we are with Brian right now. Brian is from Australia, and he is representing few of the Australian wines. So let's welcome Brian. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
I'm sure that ProWine Mumbai is treating you well.
Yes, we've had a great time so far. It's starting to get busy. Everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. Lots of wines from all over the world, and obviously Australian wines that we represent.
Interesting. So I hope this is your first trip to India, or you've been here earlier.
I've been to India before. I've been to India a few times before, but this is my first time for about 10 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So Brian, you tell me your experience about ProWine. Have you attended any other ProWine earlier?
Yes, I was at ProWine in Dusseldorf this year. I've attended ProWine in Dusseldorf several times over the years, and it's always been a very important part of the calendar for us. It's a great meeting point for lots of people working within the industry. It's obviously gotten bigger and bigger and global, and Mumbai is obviously becoming quite prominent in this part of the world. So it's great for us to be here and to focus on the Indian market.
We are a growing economy, and ProWine is an exhibition. So what do you think from a growing economy, how important this kind of shows are?
Well, I think one of the aspects of wine in India is that there's obviously a greater affluence amongst more people in the country, and a lot of people, when they reach a certain level of affluence, they want to experience different things, and one of those things is wine. And as we were discussing earlier, one of the things I love is food and wine, and it's really encouraging that people are pairing wine with Indian food. They're experiencing Indian food with wine, and exploring flavors, and that's part of what we want to do. Is we want people to appreciate our wines in the local environment.
And tell us more about your wine.
So we have several brands that we produce in Australia. Our largest brand is a brand called Big Aussie. It's primarily an export brand. We're showing that here at the show, and it's been designed specifically for export markets. We have a wine that we think is appealing to lots of wine consumers, and we've picked a couple of key varietals. So we're focusing specifically on those varietals, but we're also, as most in the Australian wine industry are, we're an innovative company. We want to be able to match the needs of a market by adjusting our brands and our style of wine to suit local markets.
So what are the grape varieties you are using here?
So the two that we have here, we have a Shiraz, but the Shiraz is blended with a small amount of Cabernet Sauvignon, plus a small amount of a grape called Ruby Red. And that just simply lifts the flavors a little bit, gives it a slightly higher sugar level, and gives it a good peppery, spicy Shiraz flavor, but with good fruit and good palate weight from the Cabernet. And then we also produce a Chardonnay under this brand, and the Chardonnay is a small amount of it goes into oak, but only a very small amount because we want it to be fruit driven. And we think that works pretty well with most markets. People know Australian Shiraz, they know Australian Chardonnay, so that's the focus for us.
Yeah, I must tell you that in India we accepted Australian wines as a good quality producing wines. So I think that's an advantage always when people understand the Australian wine and all those things. So what do you think that how your wine will capitalize all these advantages?
Well, I think you're talking about the familiarity with Australian wine, which I think is a very important thing. But what we need to offer consumers is good value and good quality, hand in hand. And that's sometimes markets demand the lowest price, but that's not necessarily going to give you the best quality wine. So the idea for us is to offer really good value wines, but they're a step up in quality. And I think consumers appreciate that type of quality, and are maybe willing to pay a little bit more than base level to get that type of quality. And that builds a brand in a market. And that's really our focus, is to enter the market and to develop it over time so that consumers will be familiar with our brand 5 years' time, 10 years' time down the track.
Brian, I really want to ask this question to you. Obviously, I will not take the names because uh, we really don't want to go into any controversy.
Yep.
But I think last around a year kind of thing, Australian wine exporters went through a very strong turmoil, international turmoil. So what do you think? You were supplying to one of the country maximum amount, and now you are not able to doing that. So from that perspective, where you are looking at India?
Well, look, in international trade, you always have to be flexible because those factors are out of your control. We can't control what politicians are going to decide. We can't control what freight prices are. So we always have to be flexible. There are some very good indicators that the Indian market is where China was perhaps 15 or 20 years ago, and that it's going to evolve and keep evolving in a way that benefits us. And as we were discussing earlier, there's a real affinity between Australians and Indians. So it's a great pleasure for us to come here and look at the potential in the market, and for us, our brands, to establish themselves and to develop in the market in perhaps the same way as that market you were alluding to as well.
And who are your target market? Top five across the globe?
So the target markets really are Japan, where we have an importer in Japan, and that brand is developing quite well there. The United States is a really strong market for Australian wine. And then India would certainly be in the top five. Singapore is a very strong market, partly because it's a market where people go and experience other brands. They might transit through Singapore. A lot of industry people spend a lot of time in Singapore, hence ProWine Singapore as well. And the UK obviously is a big, strong market for Australian wine. But there are many, many other opportunities, and you just have to be flexible and quite tenacious at focusing on those markets.
We both are cricket playing nation,
We are, yes.
and I think we both treat cricket as our religion.
Yep.
So, and the same way we accepted the wines.
Yep.
And I'm really wishing you a great luck that your wines are going to, do well in India.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
My
Brian.
pleasure.
And it's always pleasure
Great.
catching up with
We'll
you.
catch up for a drink later.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you.
And this is a small gift from us for you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye bye. Thanks.